여러분은 영어 왜 배우시나요? 영어 드라마를 자막 없이 보기 위해? 아니면 해외여행지에서 현지인과 자유롭게 대화하기 위해? 더 넓은 세계와 연결되고 싶은 여러분만의 영어 여정이 있으신가요? 영어를 배우게 된 계기부터 나만의 영어 공부 팁을 BFM에서 함께 나눠보세요. 영어가 내 삶을 어떻게 바꿔놓았는지 그 특별한 이야기를 들려줄 주인공은 바로 당신입니다. 부산 시민이라면 누구나 참여 가능. 자세한 사항은 부산 영어방송 홈페이지에서 확인하세요.
아직 어렵게 느껴지는 영어. 아이들 영어는 어떻게 챙기시나요? 부산 영어방송이 준비한 어린이 영어 콘텐츠 세상. BFM 키즈 영상 채널이 여러분을 찾아갑니다. 샘 해밍턴과 윌 벤저스 그리고 모모랜드 낸시가 함께하는 BFM 키즈에서 영어로 듣는 부산 설화와 전래동화, 재밌는 파닉스 영어, 신나는 K-팝 영어까지 만나보세요. 우리 아이의 영어 실력과 창의력을 쑥쑥 키워줄 특별한 어린이 영어 채널 BFM 키즈가 여러분을 기다립니다. 지금 바로 BFM 키즈를 검색하고 구독해주세요.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
The cherry blossoms, taking a little peek out my window. Oh, they're in full bloom now. It's so beautiful. So did you head out over the weekend? Well, I definitely went for a really long walk yesterday, taking in the amazing spring weather, as well as the cherry blossom, the 벚꽃, and the forsythias, the kenari, that dotted the streets and sidewalks. So the pale pink mixed in with the bright yellow flowers would normally be enough to put everyone in a good mood. But I have to say, some of the conversations I couldn't help but overhear, they were mostly about how bad the economy seems to be doing right now. So the Iran war has cast this looming shadow on what started out as a robust year economically. We are 1 month into the war with no signs of letting up. So the prices of everyday consumer goods are on the up and up. The Kospi has been wildly volatile, and the won to dollar exchange rate, do I really need to talk about that? Yes, well, hitting record lows. Will the economic woes continue as we wrap up March and head into April is the big question. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Monday, March 30th on BEFM, 부산 영어 방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you had a good weekend. Like I said, just heading outdoors yesterday, it kind of gave me a little oomph to get started. It was Sunday. I really wasn't looking forward to Monday, but it gave me kind of a good wrap up to the very nice weekend that we just had. Well, what about this? Living a healthy life. What does that mean to you out there? Well, it is something that I think everyone aspires to achieve, although pretty much all of us might agree that this is easier said than done. So the government has presented a new blueprint aimed at improving public health, and the goal of which is a society where every member lives a healthy life. Okay, so the Ministry of Health and Welfare on Friday passed the 6th Public Health Comprehensive Plan with goals of extending the healthy lifespan of people to 73.3 years and, of course, reconsidering fairness and health as well. Equity. This means that the country is aiming to keep everyone healthy without major diseases until at least they are 73 years of age. By the way, that's currently sitting at under 70, according to the latest data from 2022. On top of this, the government is seeking to bridge the gap between the top 20 and bottom 20 income earners and their health, which is currently at 8.4 years. The goal is to, to not at least bridge the gap, at least to lessen the gap to 7.6 years. So the new plans also include plans for the youth, which the government sees as a first phase when these health gaps start to appear. And to that end, the government is going to expand universal physical checkups for young people and provide early treatment fees for better access. You know, when you're young, every little thing seems really expensive, and we don't want that to be the cost of health. On top of this, the climate change that we have been talking about, climate change is now factored into public health plans as well. This includes threats from heat waves and cold snaps, as well as new diseases that may emerge because of climate change, including chronic illnesses, plus mental health. But this may mean that some of us will have to pay more for vices. So what are vices? Vices are basically things that we know are bad for us, things like cigarettes or maybe alcohol. The government is planning on looking to raise the price of cigarettes, which has been sitting at, 4,500 won per pack since 2015, and also raising the price of alcohol. So the ministry, however, clarified that this is a part of its mid to long-term policies, and these price hikes are not being considered right now because can we take any more at this point? I mean, price of everything is going up. Hopefully, this will mean that it will be more affordable for everyone to live a healthy lifestyle and that health doesn't become a luxury. All right, that's the main story for today. Now it's time for our text topic. It's a fun one today. Tell me about a time you asked someone out, or vice versa, when someone asked you out. Oh, it's been so long. The butterfly feelings, that anticipation, maybe even heart palpitations as you got up the courage to ask somebody out, or if somebody asked you out, like the pitter-patter. So, 내가 용기 내서 고백한 경험, 고백받은 경험. 여러분의 고백 스토리 들려주세요. 스토리 너무 많네. I cannot say, so you guys tell me your stories and I will relay those stories to the rest of the waivers. So send in your comments, your opinions, your stories of being asked out or vice versa to BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. Go to the YouTube platform and type in BEFM, Busan 영어 방송, to find our channel. Subscribe, log in, and chat with other waivers from your phone, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. You can also reach me for free on Kakao Talk. So find us first and then add us as a friend. Then you can send in your messages and photos as well. The ways you can tune into Morning Wave in Busan, 90.5 or 103.3 FM on the radio if you're in Busan. We are streaming live right now on YouTube. You can also download the BFM app and the Papang app. Both are free and easy to download. So here's the lineup for this Monday morning. First up, we have Jian with local news. Now in Busan, Haley with top stories, and Waggle Wagle tea time in hour number 2. Vasana is coming in for profile check, and then Jian's going to join us again for news in depth. That's in hour number 2. For a special interview today, we're going to talk about what I talked about in the opening, how this war is really rippling through South Korea's economy. So we're going to get an expert's take on this. That's coming up in hour number 2, and I'll be back with news overview. It's now 7:07, and this is News Overview. Vehicle rotation system may expand to private sector in case of continued fuel price rises. Finance Minister Koo Yoon-chul said yesterday the government should or could expand a mandatory 5-day vehicle rotation system to the private sector if global oil prices rise to $120 to $130 per barrel, forcing the country to potentially raise a national resource crisis alert to level 3. He vows eternal responsibility against those who commit state violence. President Lee Jae-myung yesterday swore to hold those who commit state violence accountable and remove the statute of limitations for criminal and civil cases related to the April 3rd civilian massacre on Jeju Island. Korean won falls to fourth lowest in March. The South Korean currency has fallen sharply to its fourth lowest level against the U.S. dollar in March amid a foreign sell-off on the stock market, financial data showed yesterday. Ex-Prime Minister Kim Boo-kyum to declare run for Daegu mayor. Former Prime Minister Kim Boo-kyum will formally declare his bid for mayor of Daegu, a main conservative stronghold in the upcoming June local elections, according to the Democratic Party yesterday. Iran issues warning against possible U.S. ground operation. Iran has warned the U.S. that it is prepared to confront U.S. ground assaults as thousands of troops arrive in the Middle East amid mixed messages about when the war may end. And this was News Overview. It's time for Now in Busan. We have Jean in the studio. Let's say hi first. Happy Monday.
Good morning.
I hope you had a good weekend.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Did you have a chance to enjoy the outdoors, see the flowers?
Yes, the weather was beautiful.
It was. Well, I do want to ask you about, when somebody asked you out, when you asked somebody out, how you felt, what was it like, and all that.
I thought when I first saw the text topic, it was about more serious confess that you made in your life. But for the romantic one, to my ex, he uploaded anonymous post on our school board about my mom's keep asking so when are you gonna make your girlfriend? So what should I do? So I left a comment that you should date with me and see how it would turn out. And he said it's gonna be so awkward. So I said that's what you gotta overcome to make a girlfriend. So this Saturday, and then he actually came out, and we did date for more than 2 years.
Is this in high school or when was it?
In college.
In college.
Okay.
Oh,
yes.
Interesting.
So I would count that one.
I love it that you're proactive.
Proactively, yes. To make your lover.
Yeah.
Go for it.
The loved one. Yes. Lover는 아침부터 조금 at 7-Eleven 조금 그랬네요. All right. Well, thank you for sharing. I love it. We're going to jump into Now in Busan. We're going to begin with some long-awaited news for drivers in Busan.
Yes.
A major underground roadway is finally opening. So tell us more about this one.
That's right. The 충장 underpass in the Northport redevelopment area will officially open tomorrow on March 31st at 2 p.m. This massive project, which cost about 271 billion won, started back in 2019 to help clear up the chronic traffic congestion behind Busan Station and make it much easier to access the Northport area.
Yes, well, it's been a long time coming, right? And so is the entire road opening at once, or is this a partial opening?
So they're opening the underpass section first to minimize the traffic headache for residents. The whole project includes a 4-lane underpass and an upper road with 6 to 10 lanes. By opening the underpass now, 4 extra lanes will be added to the existing 6-lane 충장대로, which should really help ease the traffic flow.
I see. And, after the flooding accidents that we have seen in the past, people are naturally concerned about safety in the underpasses. So what's being done there?
Safety was definitely a top priority during the final joint inspection last Thursday on the 26th. To prevent flooding, they've installed safety handrails and automatic entry blocking systems that can shut down the tunnel in an emergency situation.
Yes.
They also have a smart fire response system where heat sensors automatically trigger sprinklers. It's a huge step forward in both convenience and public safety.
Yes. So thank you for letting us know about this. I'm sure, there were some inconveniences during construction, but it's finally kind of opening up.
Yes.
Well, next up, we have an update on something we have discussed, carrying large luggage on Busan city buses. So can you walk us through this again?
Of course. As we've reported previously, there's been a lot of frustration among tourists trying to board buses with big suitcases.
Yes.
Starting this Wednesday, April 1st, for the first time in Korea, passengers will be allowed to bring large 30-inch carriers.
Ah, yes. I'm sure this is a huge relief for travelers. How exactly will it work on the bus, though?
It will initially be introduced on 12 buses on Route 85.
Okay.
Each person can bring one large carrier, and you have to secure it in the designated wheelchair space using a special metal frame and a securing band. To keep things safe and comfortable, there is a limit of 4 large carriers per bus, and it's restricted during peak rush hours from 7 to 9 a.m. and 5 to 7 p.m.
I see. And why was this Route 85, chosen specifically?
It's a prime tourist route that starts in Yeongdo, goes through Hinyeol Culture Village, and hits major spots like Busan Station, Samyeon, and Jeonpo-dong.
Okay.
Also, Yeongdo is a unique district where no subway lines reach, making it entirely dependent on bus transit for access.
Okay.
The city will monitor safety and feedback via QR code surveys during this 3-month trial to decide if they will expand it across the entire city.
I see. So I can see why they chose this route, and we'll see what happens from there. All right, next. Now for some massive entertainment news. We've heard about this. We've been thinking about it. It looks like BTS is officially coming back to Busan this June, right?
Yes, it's the news every BTS fan army has been waiting for. It appears BTS has picked the Busan Asiad main stadium for their concerts on June 12th and 13th.
Okay.
Other venues like Northport were considered as well, but the stadium was chosen for its security and its capacity to accommodate around 40,000 to 50,000 fans.
Right. And the timing seems extra special for the group and their fans, right?
Yes, absolutely. As the second day of the concert, June 13th, is actually BTS debut anniversary. Fans are expecting some pretty major celebrations. While the official ticket dates have not been announced yet, the city is already buzzing and hotel prices are rising as well.
Yes. So how's the city handling the sudden surge in visitors and, of course, the potential price gouging?
The city is planning to crack down on accommodations that are overcharging and is even considering opening up public facilities like youth hostels for temporary stays. They're also exploring various events involving BTS-themed content to attract more tourists, yet they are carefully reviewing plans to ensure no intellectual property rights are violated. The priority right now is coordinating with the agency to ensure everything stays safe.
That's right, because that's of utmost importance, but still exciting for all the fans out there.
Yes.
All right, lastly, Busan City is making some major changes to help young residents with their housing costs. So what's this about?
Busan City is launching a support program, 머문자리 loan, for residents without homes aged 19 to 39. It helps them get loans for their rental deposits up to 100 million won, and the city covers about 2 to 2.5% of the interest. The whole point is to take the financial pressure off young people so they can settle down stably here in Busan.
I see. So I heard this program was so popular that it used to close in just minutes. So what's changing starting next month?
Exactly. Before, it was a first-come, first-served system limited to just 50 people a month, and it would often fill up within just 10 minutes. But starting in April, the city is scrapping that limit. They've secured an extra 500 million won in the budget, allowing them to expand the total number of recipients from 550 to 950 this year.
Oh, I'm sure it's a huge relief for anyone who might have missed out before. So are there any other improvements to the application process?
Yes, the city made it much faster and also easier. The screening period for loans has been slashed from 20 days down to just 5, and the paperwork has also been simplified.
Ah, that's always good. Simplified paperwork. Well, thank you for all the local news on this Monday morning, and we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Jian.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be back with your traffic and weather. It's time for your traffic report. First up, there's congestion on the Dongso overpass from Hwangyong Ramp to Kaegum. It's backed up on the Mantang-Santam Expressway from the endpoint to Name Expressway, the Kupo-Nakdonggang Bridge. It's also busy on Gwanmun-daero from Pangnam Tunnel to Baegang Tunnel. And it is slow on Nakdong-Namlo from Gangseok Police Station to Seongsan Three-Way intersection. Currently, it's 10 degrees here in Busan under clear skies. The daytime high will go up to 17 degrees with rain forecast starting in the afternoon. However, there is bad ultrafine dust in the city. Across the nation, rain in the southern regions to spread to the rest of the country by this afternoon and to continue through tomorrow. Strong winds in the southern coastal regions to make sure everything is tied down. This was your traffic and weather. This is 전남에서 취중 진담.
했는지도 몰라 실수인지도 몰라 아침이면 까마득히 생각이 안 나 불안해할지도 몰라 하지만 꼭 오늘 밤에 해야 할 말이 있어 약한 모습 미안해도 술김에 하는 말이라 생각지는 마 언제나 네 앞에 서면 준비했었던 말도 왜 난 반대로 말해놓고 라서 후회하는지 이젠 고백할게 처음부터 너를 사랑해왔다고 이렇게 널 사랑해 어설픈 나의 말이 촌스럽고 하는 말이 아니야 두 번 다시 이런 일 없을 거야 아침이 밝아오면 다시 한번 품에 안고 사랑한다 말할게 만 하는 거니 농담처럼 들리니 아무 말도 하지 않고 어린애 보듯 바라보기만 하니 언제나 네 앞에 서면 준비했었던 말도 왜 난 반대로 말해놓고 돌아서 후회하는지 이젠 고백할게 처음부터 너를 사랑해왔다고 이렇게 널 사랑해 어설픈 나의 말이 촌스럽고 못 믿어도 아무에게 나를 이런 얘기하는
It's time for top stories. We have Haley in the studio.
My mouth is dry from
It's so
laughing and
hot.
잇몸이 막 마르대요.
우리 엔지니어님 에어컨 틀었네. 아침부터 피디님 그런 거 왜 틀으시고? 진짜. And so, so have you ever 대시해보셨어요? Did you make the first move?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
also, I'm so single. The last story is from 2008, which is when I graduated high school. So yeah, I'll tell you that story because
Okay,
it is
yeah,
so
tell-
safely 2
Yes.
decades ago.
Okay, God, so safe.
It was the summer after high school, and then there was a real cute boy at my part-time job at the Asian restaurant. He was tall, dark, and handsome, and he liked books. Yeah, I know. And we bonded over John Steinbeck, who is the great
you guys are
American
so
author.
nerdy, but it's
I
so
know, but we
cute.
bonded over John
Yes,
Steinbeck.
yes.
And he lent me his copy of The Wayward Bus, which was his favorite John Steinbeck. I'm like, all right, if this isn't a sign, if
Right.
this isn't a green light, then I've got to return my license because apparently, yeah. So I read it, put a little note.
피디님 이러고 있어요 지금. 너무 방해되는데요.
It was
방송
in
방해하지 마요.
2008.
더워.
But I put a little note in it. I'm like, hey, thanks for letting me borrow the book. It was great. If you want to talk about it,
Yeah.
call me. And I gave him my number. He had a girlfriend. Yeah. So he didn't call me. And I I backed off because I don't do that. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. So this was just literary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Literary love. I love those stories.
Yeah.
We want to hear more of those stories. And I see some of your stories. We'll get to them in a little bit. But we're going to jump into...
Must we?
그러니까 이것만 읽고
Let's
그냥
just-
이렇게
yeah.
대하면 안 될까요? 안 돼요. We're a news, 시사 program, right? So, okay, we're going to start with gas prices.
Yeah, speaking of things that are not rosy,
Yeah.
here we go. So
Okay.
this is the first weekend after the second fuel ceiling increase. So under the government's second fuel ceiling system, the
Yes.
maximum gasoline prices by oil refinery, so aka wholesale, this is capped at 1,934 won per liter for gasoline, diesel 1,923 won, and kerosene 1,530 won for the next 2 weeks. So because this is wholesale, the retail prices, which is what you will see or what we are seeing at gas stations, will go up, and they have been going up rapidly.
Yes.
We'll talk about why that's problematic. But gas stations, they of course have to add on their own costs, like cost of
course.
transportation,
Right.
operational costs, and profit margins. So prices will be higher. On the first day, apparently 35% of gas stations nationwide raised their prices by
Right.
various margins. And according to the Korea National Oil Corporation, KNOC site OPNet, the average nationwide gas price went up by over 21 won per liter. Right now, we're looking at 1,868 won for gasoline. That's again per liter, average nationwide. For diesel, 1,861 won per liter.
Yes, but some are criticizing this quick turnaround as maybe too quick.
Right, because should they have? Because based on principle, these new higher prices should be applied to the new supply, the new shipment that the gas stations got under the more expensive wholesale prices.
Right.
Technically, unless they ran out literally on the midnight of Thursday going on to Friday,
Right.
they should have still had stockpile of oil that they bought at the lower first ceiling,
Right.
at least on Friday to Saturday.
Yes.
Of course, we did see the lines at the cheapest neighborhood gas station. But what about the others?
Yes.
So meaning they're not supposed to raise prices on the stockpiles they had. So upon this, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources issued a statement saying that the government is closely monitoring the prices of some 10,000 gas stations nationwide. It'll deem these immediate prices as exploitations of government policy and respond under zero tolerance policy.
I see. Okay, so not looking good. Well, semiconductor stocks saw a shock last week after Google introduced this TurboQuant. So what exactly is TurboQuant and how will this affect the chip and memory market?
Right. Another rise and fall in the saga that's been the stock market because, as you said in the opening, the stock market has been very turbulent in the Kospi, the Kosdaq, because of the war in the Middle East. But then last week, we specifically saw a hit in the semiconductors market.
Right.
And the reason is Google's TurboQuant.
Okay.
Introduced last week. That's been apparently heralded as a potential AI breakthrough. But that also led to the shares of specifically Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, two of the world's biggest memory chip makers, to fall by almost 5 and 6% respectively, but they did recover by Friday.
Okay, so once again, what exactly is TurboQuant?
Right, so this is new technology unveiled via Google Research. It apparently compresses AI memory usage by 1/6 of the current level.
Wow.
Okay, so let's talk about what this actually means. So when you talk to AI large language models like your ChatGPT, whatever's, your chatbot, so it has to remember the previous conversations.
Yes.
Especially if you're using the paid version. That requires memory. And that is done through what's called the key value cache or cache that stores past conversations. Again, that requires memory.
Yes.
But TurboQuant has this new compression method that'll reduce the amount of memory required to remember your previous conversations by 6 times. And that would make AI models vastly more efficient and require potentially less chips.
Okay, so I'm assuming this is why initially it led to a shock on memory chip stocks?
Because let's just really simple, my term, dumb math, it's going to reduce the need by 1/6, right? Because investors fear that if chips become more efficient, less of them will be needed. So chip manufacturers like Samsung and SK Hynix, their stocks took a tumble because that would reduce demand for AI chips. Right?
Yes. So now that we have a better understanding, apparently though experts, they tend to disagree with this.
Right. So experts are saying that this won't necessarily lead to the lesser need for chips because the initial fear was that the assumption that this so-called pie, the general market of the chip market, would be the same and that TurboQuant would take a bigger share. However, experts are saying that if this memory efficiency problem is solved, then the AI market will only get bigger. So the pie is going to actually increase. Also, this is still a research paper that's published by Google, and it has to be validated. Its actual memory or impact on memory demand will have to be determined actually in practice.
Yes. Well, thanks for letting us know why there was a dip and then a rise back up, right? Well, next up, let's talk about this. With the new school year well underway, I see that you have brought some statistics about international students.
Right. So with the declining birth rate, a lot of universities have turned to international students as a major source of the new student body.
Yes.
To the point that we have seen a doubling of international students in the past 5 years, and this year exceeded the 310,000 mark for the first time ever.
Yes.
And this is according to Justice Ministry data. As of February, there were 397 international students in the country.
Yes. So give us the specifics.
Right. So the vast majority were international students at universities that are on the D2 visa, 238,000. A smaller number, 75,000 on the D4-1 visa, that's to learn Korean. Even a smaller number, 459 students on the D4-7 visa. They're here to learn a different foreign language.
That's not Korean.
That's not Korean. So it's interesting, but there's only about 460 of them here.
Interesting.
But this is a huge jump again, doubling by 573,000 at the end of 2020. And we have seen a consistent rise in the past 5 years.
Yes.
The rate of increase for international students in that period was 15%. Actually far higher than the rate of increase for general foreign nationals overall. That was only at 4.4%.
Well, now I'm kind of curious, like where are these international students coming from?
Vietnam.
Oh,
right.
okay.
So that topped the list at 115,000 or about 36% of the total.
Sure.
Followed by Chinese students at 78,000 or 25.8%. So they together made up about 62% of the international student pool.
Sure.
Followed by students from Uzbekistan, Mongolia, Nepal, and Myanmar. So experts, though, they do say in terms of the robust international student market, there is a need to really diversify this pool because a concentration on very specific countries or one or two countries, it could have immediate impact when there are international geopolitical issues.
I see. And I definitely see a lot of Uzbek students even on campus where I work. So that's kind of a newer facet of what's going on at schools. So thank you for giving us the details. Now we have a better idea of what's going on. We're now going to get to updates from that war.
Right.
Yes.
The war. So on to the Middle East. Power outages have been reported, and then some back up in the Iranian capital of Tehran. This is after Israel launched attacks across Tehran, including on the electricity infrastructure. So this whole new theme that we're seeing, attacks on energy structure, continuing. Israel attacked Iran's heavy water production plant, and they claim that that site was a key plutonium production site for nuclear weapons. This attack took place on Friday local time, and the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, confirmed that this particular plant has been severely damaged and thus no longer operational.
Sure.
On to Israel's other ventures, I suppose. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered for an expansion of invasion across southern Lebanon, saying that Israel is determined to fundamentally change the situation.
Yes. Well, what about the efforts to end the war?
Right. So that effort is being primarily headed by Pakistan. Pakistan's foreign minister said that his country will soon host talks between the U.S. and Iran, although neither side actually commented, and no indication of whether the talks will be direct or indirect.
Okay.
In terms of indirect talks, other parties, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, they're sending their respective foreign minister to Pakistan for talks on Monday local time.
Okay.
In terms of what kind of messages we're seeing from the U.S., it seems they're continuing to look for an exit ramp with Vice President J.D. Vance. He said on Friday during a podcast interview that the U.S. is going to be out of there, meaning Iran, soon. And President Donald Trump has been clear about not being in Iran for a long time.
Right. So that's one part of it. But one Iranian proxy group has now joined the conflict.
Right. And this, excuse me. This complicates the situation even further because the Houthis are now officially engaged, making another turn towards the escalation and expansion of the conflict. So the Houthis joined the war on Saturday and missile attacks on multiple Israeli military sites, also saying that they would continue military operations until the aggression comes to an end on all fronts.
I see. So first of all, we need a reminder. Who exactly are the Houthis?
Right. So we've been talking about Iran's proxy groups, these groups that are supported by Iran. So Hamas, Lebanon's Hezbollah.
Yes.
Houthis are a proxy group of Iran in Yemen.
Okay.
So they originated in the 90s as a rebellion against Yemen's government because they accuse then Yemen's government of being pro-Saudi and pro-U.S. It shares ideological ties with Hezbollah and Hamas, and they have this slogan that says death to America and death to Israel.
Oh, okay. So that's real clear.
Right.
So what does their engagement in the war signify?
So we are talking about the military expansion, missiles on Israel.
Yes.
But for us, a concern about war on the economic front.
Okay.
Because already we are suffering from the effective shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. With the Houthis engaged, we could see another maritime shipping route, the Red Sea, affected.
Oh.
Right. So if you look at a map of the Middle East, we have the Arabian Peninsula. So there's Egypt to the west in Africa, Arabian Peninsula with Iraq, Saudi Arabia, under Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Oman. On the eastern side of the Arabian Peninsula, there's the Persian Gulf.
Yes.
So basically the entry or exit, whichever direction you're looking at, to the Persian Gulf is the Strait of Hormuz.
Ooh.
Iran has a control over that.
Yes.
Well, let's look to the western side of the Arabian Peninsula is the Red Sea. The exit here is the Bab al-Mandab Strait. That's bordered by Yemen. In come the Houthis.
I see.
So actually, during the earlier days of the war in Gaza, the Houthis did target shipping coming through this particular strait. If they were to do it again, then this would be another big blow to the global economy because, again, crude oil comes out of that strait.
Yes. Well, okay, we're going to set all of that aside for now and for another story completely. We're going to talk about author Han Gang, whose work has been awarded the National Book Critics Circle, the NBCC Prize.
Right, so something to celebrate.
Yay.
The Nobel laureate, of course, Han Gang, her 2021 novel, We Do Not Part. It has won the U.S. NBCC Prize for Fiction. This is heralded as kind of one of the top 3 most prestigious American literary prizes. So the book We Do Not Part, 작별하지 않는다, was translated in English in 2024 by Ye-won and Paige Morris. And of course, giving laurels to the translators is also really important in these international prizes.
Yes.
NBCC's Fiction Committee chair described the book as a work of blinding melancholy, bleak weather, and murmuring syntax during the annual awards ceremony in New York last week.
Right.
Hangang did not attend the ceremony, but accepted the award via her literary agent.
Right. So let's talk about what the book is about.
Right. So on the surface, this book follows this particular woman, Kyungha. She goes to Jeju because of a request of her friend who's been hospitalized. Here, speaking of that bleak weather, it's snow-covered in Jeju. Kyungha traces the memories and history of the April 3rd Jeju massacre, which is coming up soon.
Yes.
Where up to 30,000 civilians were killed by government forces.
Right.
And those in the literary circles, they say that We Do Not Part likely played a crucial role in Hangang getting the Nobel Prize win 2 years ago. In Hangang's own words, this book, they're ones who have resolved not to bid farewell. Instead of an impossible farewell, they choose to stay within tenacious mourning, and they light candles below the sea. And she, accepting the award, said, in the pitch black plunge of the night, I still hope to believe in the blinking light which we have in us and to move forward holding it with tenacity. To say it in Korean, 나는 여전히 우리들 안에 깜빡이는 빛이 존재한다고 믿고 싶다.
Well, thank you for ending it on a happy one. So we look forward to hour number 2 as well. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right, it is time for a song break. And then I'm going to read all your messages because there's a lot going on there. It's 꿈나라 별나라 by 잔나비.
어떤가요? 우리 같이 떠나요. 언덕 너머 해가 지면은 늦을지도 몰라요. 어서 내가 말해줘. yeah, yeah. 바다 건너 꿈에서만 그리던 하루 종일 해가 떠있는 돛담배도 타고요. 물장구도 치고요. yeah. 그댈 위해 마차를 준비했지. 마차 타고 꿈나라도 떠나볼까. 꿈나라는 별보다 따뜻하네. 별나라는 난 너네 가도록 해. 뒷동산에 지저귀던 새들도 이미 벌써 거기 있어요. 보고 싶은 얼굴들 그곳에서 만나요. 그댈 위해 마차를 준비했지. 마차 타고 꿈나라도 떠나볼까. 꿈나라는 별보다 따뜻하대. 별나라는 난 너네 가도록 해.
It is time for Profile Check. We have Vasana here. Good morning.
Guten Morgen.
Yes, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm pretty good. Just enjoying reading all of the
gosh.
comments.
Yes.
Are you, and I mean this literally, are you guys, are you okay? 괜찮겠어요? Is all I'm going to say. I'm not going to read any of the message on air.
Can
so
I guess? 첫사랑.
there's a lot going on. It's spring. The cherry
추억.
blossoms are out.
추억 time.
You know what though? Memories are just memories, right?
What do you mean?
Meaning, they happened in the past.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's your right to remember certain things.
Okay.
Yes. So I'll just
You just leave it there hanging?
leave it there hanging. Because, yeah. Okay. If you're curious, come into our live
Memories dictate our future.
Chat, yes.
Memories dictate things.
So I do want to ask you our text topic, Vasana.
Yeah.
Today our text topic is simply tell us about a time when you asked somebody out or vice versa, you asked somebody else out.
Yeah.
And like, we want like a juicy,
Details?
juicy detailed version, not just like, I asked my wife out and we had coffee. That's so boring.
My wife will probably have a different story to me about that one, but
Yes.
I'm going to say she chased me.
Oh.
'Cause, she's
She chased you, like literally?
maybe literally, but just figuratively.
She was proactive.
Yeah, she was definitely proactive. I like quiet. I like quiet things. I don't like chatty people, which is ironic because I'm on the radio.
I don't think you don't like chatty people, really?
I don't like chatting. I like
So
my
she
quiet
pursued
time.
you, and what kind of signs did she throw your way? Or was she direct?
Oh, very direct.
What did she say? She's like, "Hey, you want to go out with me?"
Oh, not in those words, but it was kind of like, let's have a coffee or want to have dinner. Are you free for this? Not all the time, but just whenever we met.
I see.
And we were talking to each other almost every day because I was the supervisor or manager in one city. She was the manager of the same company in another
I
city.
see.
So
Oh,
we
okay.
had
So
to
you had that in
coordinate.
common,
Yeah.
though, the work.
So basically, we had to talk all the time. So that's that word, jong, I guess.
정이 들었어요.
Jong, jong, jong. Yeah, but
That darn
lots of
jong.
other experiences, which I won't say because I'm
We're on air.
married.
Yes. All right. We're going to keep it that way. We're going to jump into profile check. Who are we profiling this morning? I feel like a profiler.
Yes.
Yes. Who are we talking about?
We are talking about Stephen Colbert.
Oh.
Yeah. So he's, for those of you who don't know,
Yes.
he's a late night television host. And he helped redefine late night television as
Yes.
all of them have. But to understand him, we have to start with, I want to go back and maybe bore some of our listeners, but I want to give them a little history of
Okay.
late night itself.
Yes.
So this kind of late night talk show is not very popular in Korea.
You know, there have been attempts in Korea.
They have.
There have been attempts, but I have to say, not
Failed.
long-lived.
Yeah,
Like-
failed attempts.
Yes, yes.
Some shows have lasted one season, some maybe even 2 or 3 programs.
Right.
3 weeks into the season, cancelled.
Right.
So talk shows actually started in the 1950s, but really took off in the 60s with one guy. I'm going to say his catchphrase, "Here's Johnny."
Johnny Carson.
Yes.
Yes.
And,
And if you don't know him, that means, you're just too young.
Yes. So a lot of young people these days, they
Yes.
like horror movies, and they've seen that horror movie, The Shining, and they don't know where that phrase comes from. And they say, oh, that's a cool phrase. And then they may have seen this 60s talk show, and that's where it comes from.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, by the time we got into the 90s and 2000s, it became more of a talk show, and it became more of an overlap between comedy and politics.
Yes.
And they weren't laughing anymore. They were sort of laughing but criticizing as well at the
Yes,
same
yes.
time. And Jon Stewart was another person that changed in those days. But that's where Stephen Colbert enters it because he started on the Jon Stewart show
Okay.
as a small-time reporter. But he didn't arrive as a published host. He came through improv, where he got his timing, his character instinct, etc., etc.
Right.
And so when he was finally given the job of host, they wondered what kind of host would he be? Would he actually change his persona? But he basically kind of kept it. So he's still very sarcastic, very politically incorrect, I guess, in a way. So the Colbert Report, which was on The Daily Show, became the Colbert segment, which is on The Tonight Show now. So fast forward to 2015.
Yes.
David Letterman, another biggie,
Yes, definitely a big one.
announced his retirement, and Colbert took over.
Yes.
So, yes.
That's where it went.
That was the beginning of the beginning.
Right. And the thing is this, like, I heard, like, was it a podcast, or he said in an interview, like, so Colbert, that sounds very French. And he's like, well, it's actually just Colbert. But I wanted to sound interesting, so he went with Colbert. So you changed the pronunciation of his name.
Yes.
That's the type of person he is, right?
So that made him want to get into it and made him keep his persona. He didn't change anything. So people love him. I was going to ask you what made you get into radio, but I'm not sure whether we have time for that.
No, we don't have time. Not today. Not today, because we're focusing on John Colbert. Yes.
Stephen Colbert.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stephen Colbert.
But over time, he leaned more openly into political commentary, into American politics, and even now, obviously, now is just every single day he has something to talk about. So his show became a place where humor and seriousness could sit side by side.
Right.
His monologue made you laugh, made you think.
Wasn't he off air for a while, though?
Yeah, he was taken off air for a little bit, but
because there were some political issues, and so he was taken off air for.
His one wasn't taken off air. He was a little sick. It was another guy called Jimmy. He was taken off
Jimmy.
air. Yeah.
Okay.
But his show is actually winding up. It'll finish at the end of this month.
I see.
Or the middle of this month. But not because of politics.
Right.
It's just not as popular anymore. There's just this late night show thing.
Right.
Young people don't watch a whole hour of TV anymore.
They don't. Everything's in like short format.
Yep.
They check things out on NoTube.
Yep.
Right.
So
it's just
especially
the
at
format.
11 p.m. and midnight, they do not tune into TV. They're just doom scrolling, watching
It's a different era.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't even know how long these so-called late night talk shows are going to actually last.
Yes.
Right. The format. Unless they change something, right?
Yes, so there's nobody replacing him. They're just cancelling that show altogether.
Altogether?
Yep.
Okay.
So that will leave just 3 of them left. Or 2 of them, actually. The third one has changed into a different host every night.
Oh, really?
So that's the Daily Show. So it used to be just Jon Stewart every day.
Right.
Now it's Jon Stewart and other people.
I see. It's
Monday,
like a
Tuesday,
rotating
So Jon Stewart's Monday, everybody else is Tuesday through Friday. But anyway, the reason why I talked about him is because, have you heard of Lord of the Rings?
Yes, of course.
Yes. So,
the Lord of the Rings, yes. Why?
Stephen Colbert has been a lifelong Tolkien fan, trivia master, proud nerd, and he's now going to be a co-writer of the new Lord of the Rings film.
Really?
Yes,
so he's like super busy.
Yeah, so before he became a host, he was a writer. But a lot of people do not know this.
Right.
And as a writer, he also was a Tolkien fan. And so he met Peter Jackson. They hit it off, and so he's joining Peter Jackson's crew writing.
Okay. So is that why? So why did you bring him to our audience today?
Because a lot of people don't know that he is a geek about Tolkien, about Lord of the Rings. If you ask him any question, especially about the movies as well and the books,
right,
he will be able to answer it. Sometimes even give you the page number of the book, etc., etc.
That's a true trivia master.
Yeah. So you probably could make this into a text topic. Is there any topic that you know almost everything about?
I don't know. For you, what is it? Is it like music?
Obviously, yes.
Obviously. Excuse me.
Obviously.
Yeah. Okay.
No, music. For me, in regard to music, I would probably narrow it down to music composition. So the music theory.
Music theory.
So if you ask me any question about music theory, I could probably tell you.
Really?
From hemi, demi, semiquavers all the way up to time signatures and whatever else.
Oh, so
and
you're
chord
an
progressions.
expert. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's something that has just been
Was
with
there something personal that stood out to you in terms of why you chose Colbert as our person to profile this week?
As you kind of thought he was cancelled. He has been, some president in America asked him to be cancelled so many times in the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years. But he has stuck through it all. He has stuck to his guns. He has stuck to his morals, his beliefs. And through it all, he's managed to stay on top of everything, keep us entertained, and keep his morality at the same time. So it's something that a lot of people lose when they come to the radio, when they come to TV. They change their personality.
Sure.
But he stayed true to himself.
Okay, so apparently, I guess, same person on and off air.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to call it a wrap for this week. Wishing you a beautiful spring week. And, of course, your eye, it's better, I see.
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, we'll check in with you next week. Thank you, Vasana.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. In hour number 2, we are going to be covering the Iran war and the economic ramifications that it's had on Korea thus far and what we might expect as as well, because this is on the minds of many people. Like, is this going to continue? When will this end? Etc. So that's coming up. And of course, we have our other corners as well. All right, we're going to get to our final song for hour number 1. And this is another good one. Our producers on a row, Officially Missing You. This is by Geeks and Soyu. So enjoy this one and join me back at 8.
애써 너에게 건넸던 말 goodbye 이제 혼자 남게 된 이 밤 without you 난 아직도 I'm officially missing you
널 기다리던 밤처럼 길고와뒀던 우리 사이 공백 이게 끝이 아니길 바래 I wanna go back 너가 원하던 걸 가고진 지금에야 넌 어디로 갔는지 난 홀로 남아 lonely 오늘따라 부는 바람도 참 시린 것 같은데 넌 왜 이리 멀쩡해 보이는 건지 눈치도 없는 너지만 예전처럼만 웃어주면 돼 yeah. 봐도 잘 안 돼 너 미워하는 건 Too hard 너무 어려워 나 몰라주는 너도 서러워 Cause I'm officially missing you Officially missing you Yeah I'm officially missing you 내가 아무 말도 하지 못한 이유 우리 사이 공백은 너무 길고 어떤 단어보다 너가 meaningful On another round 더 멀어져가며 흘러가는 어색했던 오늘 하루가 내겐 아쉽고 어제로 남아있어 이 밤이 지나도 아직도 여기 있어 여전히 내 머릿속 너 때문에 늘 뒤척거리는 매일 밤 내 맘만 더 지쳐가 로동푸른 거리 비춰 흔들거리는 속을 변기 위에 비워 아무리 속을 비워도 남은 추억으로 취해 어지럽고 Girl 난 아직 기댈 곳이 필요해 So 이 노래로 너를 씻어내 습관처럼 그리워해 보며 웃는 네 사진을 내 두 눈에 담고 미소를 지으면 다시 할 수 없을까 모든 날처럼 나에겐 너 하나뿐인 girl 너 때문에 아파하는 girl 널 잊으려고 노력해봐도 잘 안 돼 날 미워하는 건 추억 속 너에게 못된 일이라는 할 수가 없어 이렇게 너를 그리워하는 날 알고 있는 나에게 너 하나뿐인 girl 너 때문에 아파하는 girl 널 잊으려고 노력해봐도 잘 안 돼 너 미워하는 건 Too hard 너무 어려워 나 몰라주는 너도 서러워 Cause I'm officially missing you Officially missing you
출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전. 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Hi everyone, I'm Catherine from Morning Wave in Busan. Do you turn into a hideous monster every time you're behind the wheel? Feeling a little guilty? Well, Busan drivers ranked the lowest in a national survey for driving behavior. But if we practice good driving etiquette, we can all become gentler beings. Here are 2 things to keep in mind. First up, when you're changing lanes, make sure to use your blinker. And second, although I do love getting text messages from all of you, don't text and drive. That's a no-no. Good driving etiquette equals safety for all. This campaign is brought to you by Morning Wave in Busan on BEFM. Oh, by the way, tune in to Morning Wave in Busan to get real-time traffic updates. You know your morning commute's better with me, Kat.
Welcome to Busan. Let me show you around. Here you can find the world's largest musical in-ground fountain and the world's only UN memorial cemetery. Stroll along the coast and explore the largest mountain fortress in Korea. As well as all this, there are so many tourist attractions, beautiful exhibitions, vibrant culture, convenient facilities, and delicious foods unique to Busan. With all the beauty and charm of the amazing city of Busan, you'll find yourself right at home in this ever-changing tourism paradise. So stay with us a while. Busan, your #1 tourist destination. Your home, away from home. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM, Busan 영어 방송.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Welcome back, everybody. It's 8 o'clock, and this is Spotlight News. Vehicle rotation system may expand to private sector in case of continued fuel price rises. Finance Minister Gu Yun-chul said yesterday the government could expand a mandatory 5-day vehicle rotation system to the private sector if global oil prices rise to $120 to $130 per barrel, forcing the country to potentially raise a national resource crisis alert to Level 3. Gasoline prices in Seoul spiked past 1,901 per liter after the government implemented a new price cap for the fuel price ceiling system amid higher global crude oil prices stemming from the prolonged conflict in the Middle East. Prime Minister Kim Min-seok yesterday vowed to take preemptive measures against possible shortages of daily necessities, warning that failure to act promptly to potential supply shocks could lead to significant public anxiety and inconvenience. He vows eternal responsibility against those who commit state violence. President Lee Jae-myung yesterday swore to hold those who commit state violence accountable and remove the statutes of limitations for criminal and civil cases related to the April 3rd civilian massacre on Jeju Island. He said the government will push to reintroduce the legislation as soon as possible, pledging to make sure those responsible for state violence will be punished like Nazi war criminals. He made the pledge during a luncheon meeting with families of the victims of the Jeju April 3rd massacre, a brutal crackdown on Jeju Islanders who rose up against the U.S. military-led rule and the South Korean government. Korean won falls to fourth lowest in March. The South Korean currency has fallen sharply to its fourth lowest level against the U.S. dollar in March amid a foreign sell-off on the stock market, financial data showed yesterday. The won averaged 1,489 won per dollar through the first 27 days of March, based on the daily won-dollar rate, marking the fourth lowest monthly average on record, with the first three records coming from the Asian financial crisis. By percentage, the won fell 4.72% against the U.S. dollar in the first 28 days of March, marking the steepest monthly decline among major currencies. Ex-Prime Minister Kim Boo-kyum to declare run for Daegu mayor. Former Prime Minister Kim Boo-kyum will formally declare his bid for mayor of Daegu, a main conservative stronghold in the upcoming June local elections, according to the Democratic Party yesterday. His mayoral bid, to be officially announced today, is seen as an attempt by the DP to gain momentum in the elections by fielding one of its heavyweights in the city, long regarded as a stronghold for the conservative bloc. This pick also comes as the main opposition People Power Party remains in limbo over its selection of a candidate for the Daegu mayor's office. Iran warns its forces waiting as U.S. troops arrive in regions. Iran has warned the U.S. that it is prepared to confront U.S. ground assault as thousands of troops arrive in the Middle East amid mixed messages about when the war may end. U.S. outlets have reported that the Pentagon is preparing for weeks of ground operations in Iran. President Donald Trump has said in recent days that the war was nearly over, but also that he was considering further action against Iran. In the meantime, Iran's Speaker of Parliament has criticized the U.S. for attempting negotiations in public while planning a ground attack in secret, in a message marking 30 days since the start of war. And this was Spotlight News. It's time for a special interview on this Monday morning. Oil prices, as we've been reporting on, have surged sharply since the Middle East war began, with some forecasts warning that they could reach as high as $200 per barrel if disruptions worsen. At the same time, the conflict is tightening global petrochemical supply, pushing plastic prices to multi-year highs. Asia is especially vulnerable, and South Korea depends heavily on Middle Eastern feedstock. And across the region, governments are responding. The Philippines, they've declared a national energy emergency, while South Korea has restricted naphtha exports and announced emergency economic measures, including fuel tax breaks and a large-scale bond buyback. So we're going to explore how this war is affecting South Korea's economy, from energy and industry to everyday life. Joining us once again is Professor Yang Jun-seok, Professor of Economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Hi, Professor. How are you?
Hi, fine, thank you.
Yes. So we're going to begin with the impact of the Middle East war. How would you describe this impact on South Korea's economy thus far?
Okay, well, let's look at the real economy first. The inflation obviously has started to hit. It's starting to hit from gasoline and diesel prices and some food stuff. That's probably going to be continue, get even higher, but other goods are going to be coming in as well. We're going to be hit with some shortages of items, most notably, you mentioned naphtha, that will lead to eventually vinyl shortages, shortage of plastic products.
Yes.
And possibly other products as well. For example, the one that's a lot of people are worried about is helium that's used for semiconductors. A lot of that is coming from Middle East as well. Things like aluminum also comes, a lot of it comes from the Middle East. So that's probably going to hit us eventually. Those shortages have not hit us yet because the transport from Middle East, even though the war has continued for almost for a month now, we still had ships coming in because transportation takes a while for to get from Middle East to Korea. But the last ship, I think, came in sometime last week. So we will be hit with shortages from now on. What shortages we have so far are mostly driven by heightened demand because people are frightened of future shortages.
Yes.
Then there's hit to the financial market. The higher oil prices are driving the further depreciation of the Korean won, as you mentioned in the previous news segment. And the higher oil prices are also creating wild volatility in the stock market. Usually, higher oil prices means possibly economic slowdowns, higher costs for firms, so stock markets usually go down. We've seen some of that. The Kospi has hit high as 6,000. Now it's hovering around 5,500, but it's been holding amazingly well at 5,500.
Yes.
So there has been some decline, but it's mostly reflected in volatility, how wild it changes, and maybe. If the shortages become worse, then we will see some further declines in the stock market as well.
Indeed. Thanks for going over all the different impacts that we have been seeing. And when we talk about rising oil prices leading to higher, for example, naphtha costs and even factory disruptions, one example is LG Chem shutting down an ethylene plant. So we do want to know, though, how serious is this?
Okay, well, Korea and Japan have been singled out as countries which are most vulnerable to naphtha shortages due to the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
Korea is a major producer of naphtha, but its domestic supply is not enough to satisfy domestic demand because Korea has such a big petroleum product sector, petrochemical sector. Korea relies on imports for about 45% of its naphtha demand, and 77% of that for imports come from Middle East. The lack of naphtha, which is a raw material for a wider range of petroleum products, are now expected to affect plastic products like plastic bags, or even petrochemical products like paint and medical supply, pharmaceuticals, medicine.
Yes.
The government has deemed the situation serious enough so that government is banning the exports of naphtha to other countries, forcing some Korean companies to cancel export contracts. Approximately 11% of Korean domestic production of naphtha is exported abroad. But if we do experience naphtha shortages, then it will not only affect petroleum products, but it may have chain effect to other manufacturing sectors as well. Petroleum products, plastics, those are used as inputs to other industry. So right now we are. As I said, we had regular imports of oil up to last week, but from this week, those ships which left port before the war have all arrived. So we may see some additional problems with naphtha shortages starting this week, but the government is trying to find alternate sources, but so is everybody else. So we're probably going to see higher prices for naphtha coming in very soon.
Yes.
But if we're just faced with higher prices and no shortages, I think we'll be lucky.
I see. Well, I also want to talk about something else. The high level of government and overall debt here in South Korea. So in this situation, what does the current crisis level reveal about the country's economic vulnerabilities and obviously its ability to respond as well? Where are we right now?
Okay, well, we're in the danger of facing these shortages because globalized world makes things cheaper, and that means supply goes to whatever the least expensive sources are.
Yes.
So we've seen a lot of crucial items being supplied from one or two sources globally. We saw this, for example, when Korea had diplomatic problems with Japan, and Japan had export restrictions on some of the chemicals needed for semiconductor production, like photoresist, hydrogen fluoride. We couldn't find alternate sourcing. There was a little bit coming in from Germany, but so much of it was coming from Japan because it was just less expensive from Japan that everybody just sourced it from Japan. Similar things can be said for, say, Korea's memory chip production. Korea has almost a monopoly on semiconductor memory chips.
Yes.
During this time of war, we see a lot of products which are sourced from Middle East that cannot be sourced easily from elsewhere, at least within a short period of time. So countries are very vulnerable. Korea may be more vulnerable than most because we're very price competitive.
Yes.
And also some of these products that's coming from the Middle East are not easily available from elsewhere. Now, you mentioned Korea's debt load.
Yes.
Korea has relatively high corporate and household debt to GDP.
Sure.
That makes it very difficult for households and companies to absorb higher costs or adjust and endure higher prices. The alternate sourcing, even if it's available, those are going to be more expensive. So if you have more debt, then it gets harder for you to afford this. And because of the higher inflation, we'll probably have higher interest rates, which means that households and corporations, their interest burden will rise just when their sales are probably going to fall because of the economic slowdown that may be coming from higher prices and shortages.
Yes.
Now, government does have a relatively low debt to GDP ratio compared to other countries. It's only about 50%, more or less, of the GDP. That gives some flexibility for government response. But the problem is, even government response here will probably have to be limited because if they end up borrowing money from the capital markets, they'll drive up the interest rates there, and it'll worsen the problems for the households and corporations, as well as increase tax burdens either now or in the future. So they will have to be very careful in making their spending plans to try to get us out of the economic slowdown.
Yes. And if we look at this conflict with Iran prolonging even beyond what we're, of course, hoping for, what type of long-term impact could it have on South Korea's economy?
Okay, well, inflation is going to go up. The war has gone on long enough so that annual inflation will be significantly affected. And in addition, even if the war ends today, we're probably going to have higher inflation, higher oil prices for at least 1 month to 4 months, and that's because production in the Middle East has stopped, and it'll take time for it to start back up again. So even if the war ends today, we'll have higher oil prices for at least a month to 4 months. But if we can get out of this with just higher inflation, then I think we're going to be lucky. Because we're going to be hit with shortages. We haven't been really hit with shortages so far. The shortages that we hear about in the news, say plastic trash bags, those come from heightened domestic demand, not necessarily be less supply.
Yes.
And that's because people are afraid that prices of these items will go up in the future, so they're hoarding. And that's a reasonable response, but it sort of draws down whatever we have of those stuff in the inventory much faster.
Right.
And that includes not only plastic bags, but we think that we've talked about NAFTA. We've seen the gasoline demand go up somewhat because people want to gas up their cars before the prices go up.
Yes.
So if the shortages hit, then that will significantly impact Korea's real economy, the real growth rate. And then the type of things that shortages are expected, that includes, we've talked about NAFTA, but it also includes fertilizers, which will affect Korea's food production as well as global food production. Countries like India are already hit with possibilities of fertilizer shortages. NAFTA, lack of NAFTA will lead to increases in maybe shortages in petroleum products, that's plastics, fabric and clothing, medicines, and manufacturing in general. We mentioned aluminum as well. Qatar is a major exporter of aluminum. And what's maybe most problematic for Korea, though it may be about 4 or 6 months out in the future, is helium, because helium is used for semiconductor production, and about 40% of Korea's helium comes from the Middle East.
Yes.
The Korean manufacturers do have a significant inventory of helium, so it's not going to be a problem perhaps for about 4 to 6 months. But if the shortages, if the war lasts more than the next few weeks or so,
yes.
As I said, some of the production facilities in the Middle East have gotten hit. So there may be shortages beyond the next 4 months. If so, then Korea's semiconductor production may be affected as well.
Yes.
Talking about semiconductors, another potential problem is not directly with Korea, but with the United States. Korea's engine of growth right now is semiconductor exports. But if the higher energy prices, puts a dent in their AI rally, so their data center construction declines, then Korea's exports of semiconductors may decline as well. And as I said, that was expected to be the engine of growth this year. So the engine of growth for Korea may be significantly cut.
Yes, indeed. So hopefully, fingers crossed at this conflict, that it will end sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for coming on air with us and explaining the ins and outs of what's happening here economically. As always, we appreciate your expertise. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
This was Professor Yang Jun-seok, and we talked about the rippling effects of this war on South Korea's economy. So obviously we talked about things like NAFTA, but also, fertilizer, things that we may not have thought about as well to affect many industries to come. And this was our special interview. I'll be back with your updated traffic and weather.
Good morning.
Good morning.
굿모닝입니다.
Good morning.
좋은 아침입니다.
Morning wave in Busan.
Morning wave in Busan.
Morning wave in Busan. Major news, local buzz, and expert takes. It's all here on Morning Wave in Busan. Brighten up your morning commute with Morning Wave in Busan.
Morning wave in Busan.
It's time for your traffic update. It's now 8:20. First up, there are a couple accidents to report on. First up, an accident on Nakdong-Namno from Hadan intersection to Myeongji ramp right before the Museum of Contemporary Art. There's another accident right by the Mandak Catholic Church from Mandak intersection toward the entrance to Namhae Expressway. There is a truck that is broken down on Pyeongno going away from the city on Daeyeon ramp, and it is congested on the top portion of Gwangan Bridge. Currently, it's already 12 degrees Celsius here in Busan. Clear skies. It's going to go up to 17 today. However, there is rain forecast for this afternoon. bad ultrafine dust day here in Busan. Across the nation, rain in the southern regions to spread to the rest of the country by this afternoon. It's going to continue through tomorrow. Strong winds in the southern coastal regions, so make sure everything is secured, that everything is tied down. This was your traffic and weather. It's time for Waggle Wagle tea time. Haley's back.
Hello, hello.
We have so much waggling to do.
All right, let's warm up our mouths.
Because we're going to begin with some stories and then we're going to end with your text messages. So
your stories.
Yeah.
All of you should get writer's credits today.
자, April. April is literally around the corner and some new laws are coming into effect, including changes to driving under the influence.
And note that she said driving under the influence, DUIs, and not just drunk driving.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because that's important. So starting April 2nd, revisions to the Road and Traffic Act are coming into effect, including driving under the influence of medication or drugs. So with this, there have been contents, though, online circulating, warning people that they might get charged with DUIs or 약물운전 just for taking cold medication.
I mean, technically, cold medication is still medication, but is this true? Because we need to know. I mean, you got to break it down for us. Are DUIs going to cover cold medication?
Not really.
Okay.
Just, common sense wise, not really. So according to the police, these new crackdowns will be focused on drugs. Right. So actually, the revisions will be over the punishment of those who drive under the influence of drugs. So currently, that category exists, except the punishment is under 3 years in prison or under 10 million won in fines. However, starting April 2nd, this will go up to under 5 years in prison or up to 20 million won in fines.
Yes.
And for repeat offenders, there's going to be a sentencing minimum.
Okay.
2 years in prison or between 10 and 30 million won in fines. Also, another key point, if you refuse to take a test, whether that be a breathalyzer, although that's going to be less common for a drug. So urine test or blood test by the police request to take this test is going to be punishable under the law.
Okay.
So the reason that these changes are coming, because there has been criticism that legal foundations for crackdowns and punishments, these have been too low despite the growing number of such drug-related DUIs. We've also seen some high-profile cases, including that luxury vehicle that drove off a bridge in Seoul and propofol vials and other syringes were found inside her car.
Right. Someone's asking, what is the difference between DUI and DWI? DUI is driving under the influences, and DWI is driving while intoxicated.
Right.
So in essence, they're the same thing. Depends on where you live. The verbiage is different. So what about a lot of people wondering, what is the criteria for quote-unquote drugs?
Right. So under the law, there are 490 types of these drugs, including illicit drugs. So think about your illegal drugs.
Yes.
Marijuana, psychotropic drugs. So we call that 향정신성의약품 in Korean. So that affects your central nervous system. So things like sleeping pills, zolpidem, oxycodone, propofol, ketamine, they're all prescription drugs and heavily controlled by the authorities. But things that are probably not going to get you in trouble, your antihistamines, your cold medication. You're fine. Allergy medication, they're not included on the list. However, this differs from person to person because you could go to the doctor for the flu or the cold, and they probably for your runny nose, I always get that for 콧물약, and the doctor and the pharmacist says, oh, this might make you really sleepy.
Right.
I'm usually okay. Other people are really drowsy. So if you fall into that camp with any medication makes you drowsy, then, common sense wise, for your safety and the safety of others, do not get behind the wheel.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I do feel drowsy when I take allergy medication. So I make it a point, never get behind the wheel.
Right. And the thing is, for me, that's hubris too, because if I'm okay with one type of cold medication, if I take another allergy medication, and I could get drowsy. So you never know.
Okay. So while we're on this topic, oh my goodness, I thought it was like Groundhog Day. Legendary golfer Tiger Woods was arrested after he crashed his car. It flipped over, and he was arrested, wasn't he, for DUI
suspicions, right?
Yes.
So, according to the police in Florida, Tiger Woods was driving his Land Rover into on a road. He was trying to pass this truck, but then when it was a fairly narrow road, his SUV clipped, meaning kind of ran into slightly the trailer of the truck, but then it flipped onto its side.
Right.
No one was injured, and he was able to get out of the vehicle, crawl out through the window. But investigators, when they got on the scene, said that he showed signs of impairment. He was subjected to a roadside test before being taken into custody. He blew the breathalyzer. That was basically nothing. He was not drunk.
Right.
But investigators asked him to submit a urine test. Tiger Woods refused. So he was charged with DUI with property damage and refusal to submit to a lawful test. And a lot of you probably have seen the mugshot that was circulating online.
Yes.
He was released on bail hours later.
Yes. And actually, U.S. President Donald Trump, he talked about this arrest.
Well, Trump's an avid golfer, and the two are very close friends, according to the president. Actually, just interesting tidbit. Tiger Woods is in a relationship with Trump's former daughter-in-law, Vanessa Trump. So she was married to Donald Trump Jr. The two have 5 kids together. Trump called Wood an amazing man, but that he's had some difficulty. So what that difficulty might be referring to, back in February 2021, Tiger Woods was in a major accident that caused multiple leg injuries.
Yes.
But he also has a DUI charge from back in 2017.
Right.
He's been working his way back to the golf scene, but he's been, suffering from these injuries, and now with the DUI, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yes. So, okay. Well, I love the segue from DUI to Tiger Woods, the U.S. president. While we're on the topic of the U.S. president, another segue, his signature will appear on the $100 bill.
Right. So Donald Trump will become the first sitting U.S. president to have his signature on a U.S. banknote. So that's like 화폐 지폐, because that's according to the Treasury Department, said that this move would mark this year being America's 250th anniversary. So Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that, quote, there is no more powerful way to recognize the historic achievement of the great country and President Donald Trump than the U.S. dollar bill bearing his name, and Bessent's signature will appear alongside Trump's.
I see. So let's talk about why this is unprecedented.
Right. So if you picture any bill, any banknote, there are usually pictures of kings for monarchies, really important historical figures. But for democracies, you don't have a sitting leader.
Right.
Because that's the point of a democracy. So it's, especially for the United States historical background, the U.S. fought a war to win independence against the monarchy, the British monarchy.
Right.
So having portraits or other images or symbols of a leader, that's heavily associated with monarchies, not so much for democracies.
Yes.
In fact, so much so, in the U.S., there's law prohibiting this. It explicitly prohibits image of a sitting president or even a living former president on currency. So right now, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Obama cannot be on
the bill.
Any bill. A president may be featured on a coin no sooner than 2 years following his or her death.
Okay.
So 2 years must pass even after they die. So in the U.S., it's also always been the signature of the treasurer that appeared on banknotes, and that's a tradition that goes back to 1861.
Right. Hence why it's unprecedented.
It's
why
a big
this
deal.
Is making news. All right. So for our next story, this unlikely place is becoming a hotspot. Sorry.
Why are you twirling your hair?
For hitting on people. And that takes us to our text topic. We'll get into some of your messages in a little bit.
Bookstores.
And by the way, hitting on people. Let's go over that term.
Yeah. Hitting on people. You're not actually...
때리는 거 아니에요.
때리는 게 아니라 작업이라고 하죠. You're asking someone out. Hey, can I get your number? Apparently the kids these days call it 번호따기. How's your husband? And your 3 kids? She keeps twirling her hair. I don't even know. So, you watch some TV shows, some movies, bookstores, they sometimes function as like meet cutes. Another term, like really cute kind of serendipitous meetups. But now people are actively looking for dates in bookstores.
Yeah.
This particular large
chain, the nationwide bookstore branch, the K something. And people on social media and online communities, they're even sharing tips on how to ask people out and get their numbers at these specific sites. Here's some, tip seems to be a weird phrase. Claims.
Claims.
Apparently, they advise you to go at 4 p.m. on a weekend. Why? Because if you are at a bookstore alone on a weekend afternoon, you're likely single. Okay, all right. Okay, valid. And the fact, though, that they are not napping at home, as I was at 4 p.m. yesterday, but at a bookstore, they are very driven people. They're hardworking. They're intelligent. Another so-called expert quoted in the social media post, if you're a guy, and it's a very heteronormative relationship, if you're a guy looking for women, go in the bestseller, fiction, poetry, and essay sections. Apparently, these are more female-dominated.
What about the flip side?
Go to business and econ.
Okay, if you're a woman looking for a man,
go to the business or the econ sections.
051님, 꿀팁 감사합니다.
You know what's really funny, though?
What?
This is how, again, single I am. For my birthday last year, Catherine got me gift certificates to this particular bookstore. Guess how I spent it? Online.
Online?
Again, this is how single I am.
혜리님.
그러니까요.
And then this is a perfect time for us to read some of our text messages. I'm going to read one in particular because our producer really wants us to read this one. 이거는 꼭 읽어야 돼요. It's from... 이름을 꼭 얘기할까요?
No, I think we should be anonymous.
Yeah, we should be
Initial.
anonymous. Cilantro? 라고만 할게요. 자, I'm going to paraphrase it in English because the Korean listeners, they've already read it in Korean. So about 24 years ago, I had to fulfill my mandatory military service. And then, I went to work part-time at a large supermarket. And then, 비지 좀 깔아주세요. I'm just kidding. So when I went for the interview and later for training, I sat in the back, 뒤에 앉았는데, and that's when I noticed a goddess. Goddess 여신 sitting in the front row. And from that moment on, 그때부터 I couldn't focus on the training at all. 집중을 못했대요. And after the training period ended and I had started working, one day I saw that same goddess working across from me. And so 그래서 점점점이라고 돼 있고 and the biggest question everybody's like, 그러면 지금 현재
Is she your wife? 여러분,
거기까지만. We gotta protect.
여러분 눈치.
우리 cilantro-님, protect. We gotta protect him. Yes. So anyhow, that's one of many messages, but we don't have enough time to read all the messages. This could be a distraction for people who are not there to get dates. Are we still talking about the bookstore?
Yeah, the bookstore.
Okay,
Going
sorry.
back to the bookstore story, because these are not organic interactions. Because if it's a meet cute, then it's cute. But if this is like a pickup artist who's like lingering with their faces covered in masks and hats, apparently. Also, if you're asking for someone's number, seriously, your face should be showing.
Yes.
And then, according to some accounts, they're like whispering, "Hey, I want to get to know you," which could be real creepy. I'm not gonna lie.
True.
That can be real creepy. Again, if I can't see your face and you're a stranger,
번호 좀 주세요.
누구세요? 저리 가세요. And to the point that some people have even complained to the bookstore, and the store has put up a sign saying, please be considerate of other people's precious reading time.
Yes.
Do not disturb a stranger.
Right.
And advising anybody who feels uncomfortable to get in touch with any of the staff members, and they'll kind of, usher the other person out or get you to a safe place.
Right, and read their room. 그냥 뜬금없이 가가지고 폰번 주세요.
Right.
Like, whoa, who are you, right? So anyway, some people could say that this is a side effect of an increased readership among the younger generation.
Because this is a survey that we covered last week. According to the Culture Ministry, people in their 20s were prominent readers, being really the only group to show an increase in readership.
Okay.
But with these pickup attempts to hit on people at not only bookstores, but some book clubs have become kind of like a meat market for other people with ulterior motives. So that could be a side
side effect of reading.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for a very lively text topic, plus, of course, Waggle Wagle segment. And we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Let's get to our next song. And this is dedicated to Cilantro-님's 추억, 여전히 아름다운지 by Toy. It's time for News in Depth, and we have Jian back at the studio. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, so we're beginning today with a significant move toward transnational justice here in Korea, and we did mention this story in Spotlight News. For the first time, the National Police Agency has launched a full-scale investigation into state honors awarded to those involved in torture and fabricated spy cases under past authoritarian regimes. So this is a massive undertaking. Can you tell us what's going on?
Of course, yes. Since its founding in 1945, the National Police Agency has issued around 70,000 state honors, including presidential and prime ministerial commendations. Now they're reviewing the specific merits behind every single one of them. The goal is to identify cases where state power was used unjustly, specifically focusing on those who were rewarded for human rights violations.
Yes.
While there have been past probes into those involved in the December 12th military insurrection or the May 18th Gwangju democratization movement, this is the first time the police are systematically auditing their own history regarding the abuse of investigative power.
Right.
They plan to report the list of targets to the Prime Minister's office soon and seek official revocation through the Ministry of the Interior and Safety.
Yes, and it is shocking to think that people known for such brutal acts still hold these honors.
Right.
And the name Lee Geun-an, often called the technician of torture, is coming up again in this context.
Yes, exactly. Lee Geun-an, who passed away on March 25th, reportedly received 16 state honors during his career. Believe it or not, only one of them, an Order of Service Merit awarded by former President Chun Doo-hwan in 1986, has been officially revoked. A prime ministerial commendation he received in 1980 for investigative contributions remains valid to this day. This award was for his work during the martial law period following the October 26th incident, a time when he was busy subjecting journalists and activists to electric shocks and waterboarding. For victims like Yoo Soo-gyul, who was tortured by Lee Geun-an, the fact that these merits still stand is a mockery of justice.
Right. The thing is, though, he's not the only one. Other high-ranking officials from that era also seem to have kept their medals.
Yes. Take Park Cho-won, the former head of anti-communist investigations, who is known for saying, "clap the desk and he died excuse" in the Park Jong-chul torture death case. He had at least 13 public honors, including Order of National Security Merit Medals, which actually grant the recipient national merit status, and various government benefits like educational support and additional points in public sector hiring.
Yes.
Experts estimate his actual total could be over 40 if you include undisclosed internal awards. Even others like officers surnamed Park and Kim, who were convicted for torturing former Minister Kim Geun-tae, still hoard their medals from the Chun Doo-hwan era. This probe is seen as a crucial step in correcting the inverted values of the state's highest honors.
So President Lee Jae-myung has also weighed in on this, calling it a long overdue but necessary step. What is the administration's official stance?
President Lee Jae-myung was quite blunt, describing the move to strip honors from those he called worst-case state violence criminals as a natural, if belated, correction of a pathological situation. He expressed his thoughts on social media, even using the term judicial murder to describe these past crimes. He's taking it a step further, too. Beyond just taking back medals, the president has pledged to push for legislation that would remove the statutes of limitations for both criminal and civil liability in case of state-sponsored violence.
Right.
He wants to ensure that as long as a perpetrator is alive, they can be held at least criminally responsible, regardless of how much time has passed. He's framing this as a core part of his normalization of the abnormal policy, especially as he visits Jeju yesterday on March 29th for the April 3rd incident.
Yes. And so that is our top story for News in Depth. So thanks for giving us all the details of this. We're going to move on to the international stage. A massive wave of protests called No King swept across the United States and even reached Europe and Asia here this past Saturday. So it sounds like the scale was unprecedented. We're talking about millions of people apparently hitting the streets. So
Yes.
what can you tell us about the magnitude of this movement?
This marked the third major action by the No Kings movement, and it's being hailed as a historic turning point.
Okay.
Organizers reported that more than 3,300 rallies took place across all 50 states, not just in deep blue cities like New York and San Francisco, but also in small towns within Republican strongholds like Wyoming and Alabama. According to the organizers, years, around 8 million people participated worldwide, which is a significant jump from the 7 million we saw back in October. What makes this movement unique is that it isn't tied to a single demand. Instead, it's a massive umbrella of resistance for citizens frustrated by what they call Trump's authoritarian style of governance, his hardline immigration crackdowns, and his recent military escalations in the Middle East.
I see. And Minnesota actually has been popping up on a lot of people's feeds. It seems to have been the heart of the movement this time around. Why was there so much concentrated energy and tension specifically in that area?
Minnesota has become the epicenter of the resistance following a tragic event in January where federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, agents shot and killed 2 American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Pretty, during an immigration sweep.
Right.
That incident has deeply scarred the community. Tens of thousands of people packed the grounds of the Minnesota State Capitol in St. Paul for what was called the movement's flagship event. The atmosphere was incredibly charged, especially when Bruce Springsteen took the stage. He performed a somber new song titled Streets of Minneapolis, specifically dedicated to the 2 victims.
Right, because the original song is Streets of Philadelphia, so he changed it to Streets of Minneapolis just for this. So we are seeing a very interesting shift in the political landscape here. It wasn't just what we see as progressive or the liberals protesting. I hear that even some former supporters of the president seem to be joining in.
That's right. That is exactly what's worrying the administration right now. We saw a surge in participation from red districts where Trump won all 3 of his presidential runs. Many former Republicans are joining over concerns about the economy and the war. Strikes on Iran have triggered a spike in gas prices and grocery costs that is hitting the MAGA base directly. They feel the country is being dragged into another endless war without a clear exit strategy. The frustration is also fueled by high tariffs on everyday items like phones, cars, and even dishwashers. It appears the so-called golden era is now breaking the solidarity of once loyal supporters.
Yes, and so the movement also seems to have a very strong international dimension, as I mentioned earlier. How did the rest of the world respond to what's happening in Washington?
The No King slogan has truly gone global, with rallies in at least 15 other nations, including the UK, France, Germany, and even Japan and Australia.
Okay.
In Paris, hundreds of people gathered to protest against what they called Trump's reckless and irresponsible foreign policy. In Rome, thousands marched through the streets, not only criticizing U.S. military actions, but also voicing opposition to Italy's own pro-Trump Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni.
Yes.
There is growing concern in the international community that the conflict in the Middle East could spiral into a much wider conflict.
That's right. And then we do have the midterm elections coming up in November. So real quick, how much of a political burden might this create for the White House?
So it's the key question. While marches alone don't change laws, the No Kings movement is unique because it's hitting Donald Trump where it hurts most, his economic narrative. By linking foreign military strikes directly to the soaring cost of fuel and groceries, protesters are successfully peeling away the kitchen table voters who previously ignored his rhetoric in favor of their wallets. If the administration can't stabilize the Middle East or cool down inflation, these rallies aren't just a weekend event. They are more like a weekly reminder of a presidency losing its grip on the very people who put it in power.
That's right, and that's why we will be watching the midterm elections once again coming up in November. And with that, we're going to call it a wrap for News in Depth this week. Thank you for all of the details, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Jian.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to call it a wrap for today from Monday morning with this song request from Leah Nim. So here it is, 잔소리 by IU. Wishing you a really wonderful Monday. Bye, everybody.
늦게 달리지 좀 마, 술은 멀리 좀 해봐. 10살짜리 애처럼 말을 안 듣니.
정말 웃음만 나와. 누가 누굴 보고 아이라 하는지. 정말 웃음만 나와.
싫은 얘기 하게 되는 내 맘을 몰라.
좋은 얘기만 나누고 싶은 내 맘을 몰라.
그만하자. 하나보다
내가 그 맘인 거야 주머니 속에 널 넣고 다니면 정말 행복할 텐데
둘이 아니면 안 되는 우리 이야기
누가 듣는다면 놀려대고 무슨 이야기
그만할까 하나부터 열까지 다 널 위한 소리 내 말 듣지 않는 너에게는 뻔한 잔소리
그만하자 사랑하기만 해도 시간 없는데
머리 아닌 가슴으로 하는 이야기 네가 싫다 해도 안 할 수가 없는 이야기
그만하자
나의 잔소리가 들려 와우. 내 눈에 힘